A good horror game is something special. It is able not just to challenge us with its gameplay or tell a good story, but to scare us, to haunt our dreams and idle thoughts, even to make us question our own perceptions of reality. In this podcast, we meet the developers of both existing popular horror titles and hotly anticipated upcoming ones to discuss how they do it, what inspires them, and all things spooky and unnerving. Welcome to Talking Terror, the official podcast of the Horror Game Awards. Hello and welcome to Talking Terror, the official podcast of the Horror Game Awards. I'm Phil.
And I'm Ash.
And today we are delighted to be joined by James Macleod from Vertpaint, who are behind the upcoming new game Ritual Tides. So thanks very much for joining us, James. Hope you're doing okay.
Thanks so much, and it's great to be here. Thank you.
So before we begin, I think if you want to tell us a little bit about Ritual Tides, because this is Vertpaint's first game, if I'm right.
Yes, yeah, it is. I'm really sorry if I've turned off my camera. Is that my fault?
Yeah, I think you should be able to manually turn it
Sorry.
back on.
There you
go. He's had enough.
Amazing. No, yeah. So, sorry. Do you mind repeating your question, Phil?
I was just going to say, for Ritual Tides and being Verpaint's first game, and
Yes.
obviously it's very mysterious at this point. So, do you want to kind of give us some information about it for anyone who's not seen anything yet?
Appreciate it. So we've only come out with publicly a few little bits of content. We came out with our announcement last Halloween, 2024. That went crazy. You know, everyone sort of scooped up the news, which is great. But that was very esoteric. It was shot inside the game, something we haven't really talked about yet. But it was very much like here's the flavor and the theme of the game that we're working on, but nothing ready to show, etc., etc. So only recently we've put out some visual content, because one of the sort of, I guess, like marketing lines we led with really early was we're working on what we believe to be the best looking game that will come out in the near future, I should say, which is obviously a huge claim. So we put out a little bit of a teaser to say, like, look, we're cooking, here's what we're working on. But other than that, no, it is pretty mysterious, and we're yet to do like a really big gameplay stretch, which I'm really excited for.
Yeah, I love, Phil, you came up with the line, as mysterious as the island it's set on, earlier, which
we're stealing. We're stealing, yep.
Yeah. But no, it looks amazing. I feel like all of the little tidbits that you guys have dropped so far, like, it just lends itself to this gorgeous mystery that you want to solve, and also to learn more about in the marketing campaign as well. But I know you're using Discord to drop teasers and spoilers as well.
Thank you for plugging that, because that's something we desperately want people to start jumping into. So we're making sure that, because we've got a really cool community, it's already sort of 400 people in there, which for us is wild. And that's where we're dropping a lot more behind the scenes content. There's an ask the dev section as well. So we get all sorts of questions, some really sort of tough ones as well. And so, yeah, if anyone's interested in seeing more than the sort of public facing side of things, please jump into the Discord and even ask, to be honest, if there's something you really want to see. For our community, we want to be quite transparent. For anyone who doesn't want any spoilers, we do have some sort of spoiler channels in there, but yeah, like you can go in there as well and not see too much if that's your preference, I should say.
Yeah, because I know, like, some people want to devour every bit of information they can beforehand, and other people are kind of like, no, I want to go in completely blind and know nothing about this. And
no, totally, there will be a lot of mystery still. We're making sure that we do vet what we put in there. But yeah, no, absolutely, we want to make sure that the concept and actually the game itself is like well preserved for a fun experience, if you know what I mean.
Sorry, I was just going to say, if you could like sum up the game storyline in like a couple of sentences, what do you think it would be?
Yeah, okay, awesome, because this is where I go into like do not ruin it. Yeah. So territory. So to sum it up, I would say it is a very scary, trippy, cosmological horror experience set in a British setting. So obviously we talked about, you were the first ever interview we did, Ash. It was awesome. And the sort of Lovecraftian Jurassic Park, that description, I can't remember who sort of coined it, but like that very much is sort of how I describe the game. In Jurassic Park, you're on an island with dinosaurs. In our game, you're stuck on an island and it's monsters, but really grotesque, used to be human abominations, essentially.
Yeah, and this is a fictional island. There's no risk of anyone washing ashore if you
No, no,
get
no, no,
lost off the coast of
exactly. So it's supposed
Cornwall.
to be, it's supposed to be in our timeline. So the way that it's set is this island is set off this coast of Cornwall. It's called Hortus for sort of reasons and whatnot. And no, it doesn't exist, but there's a reason why it doesn't exist. It's kind of the idea.
The spoiler avoiding there. There's reasons, which
Oh yeah,
God
reasons. I'll
knows.
say reasons a lot. Part of it was people haven't written that bit, maybe.
Yeah.
But no, no, no.
Yeah, one of the things I wanted to, because obviously with it being set like kind of that British setting, and off the coast of Cornwall, like there's obviously kind of cosmic horror and that kind of Lovecraftian stuff is its own thing anyway. But I was also wondering, like, how much does like kind of the setting play into that? And like, in terms of got Cornwall's place that obviously has got its own like history and mythology almost in it in there, and like from things like the pirates to
Yeah,
Arthurian
yeah,
stuff and
yeah.
all sorts. So like, does that any of that play into it, or is it just kind
Yes.
of a location?
Yeah, so the island itself, it actually used to be called Stannery Isle. And the reason being that is the island is sort of in Cornwall back in that era, there was a lot of tin mining, and it's an extension of a lot of the sort of cultural ongoings of the time period. And what happened was, I can say this, so a cult started to get its claws into the island and its inhabitants, and slowly things were turned, and eventually they renamed the island to Hortus, and that's where sort of things got a little bit sketchy, cut off from the mainland a little bit more. But those historical touch points are very much still in the island, both physically and in the people that are still inhabiting it. But yeah, so there is a lot. We've taken a lot of inspiration, a lot of reference from both Devon and Cornwall, and actually, to be honest, parts of Scotland, parts of Wales, and little bits of folklore as well. There's a lot of even sort of really old school pagan stuff that happened in Cornwall. We've mixed this in there as well because we're a big fan of that sort of I guess theme, if you like. So yeah, it's quite a lot that's quite attached.
Yeah, I think the way you describe it, like to me, it feels very like Wicker Man, very apostle, very like the secluded island, the British folklore. It feeling very, ooh, like spooky. I don't know. I think it just sounds incredible. Like to be on
Oh,
there
awesome.
in a game as well. Yeah, I'm really excited to set foot upon the Isle of Hortus.
I'm a big. This sounds weird. I'm a big fan of cults. So
Yeah.
like the yeah. So like the Wicker Man, like they painted such a lovely picture, and I think like more contemporary things like Midsummer, like with Ari Aster's movie, like there's some really cool. What I love about cults in sort of a storytelling lens is that they are like it's like a groupthink,
Mm.
and there's some really cool stuff that we're trying to do with that, and that like for the greater good type sort of mantra that you mentioned Wicker Man, so I'm going to try and not go off on a massive tangent as why I love it, but yeah, no, very much that's kind of we really want to get that sort of very scary, very communal feeling put across to the player.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, is there much you can say at this point about the gameplay and like kind of how it'll play? Because obviously, within horror and within horror games, we've got that kind of broad spectrum from like you kind of walking simulator, hiding simulator type thing to obviously survival horror, which is a lot more. You will eventually get a gun and be able to fight the enemies and
Yes, yeah, yeah.
that sort of thing, and exploration and puzzles always featuring like. So, what sort of angle are you guys taking on this?
It leans much towards the survival horror. So there are, and don't there's elements of games that are much more sort of like walking simulator that I love. Those influences are there for the fact that we want the place to feel vast. We don't want the place to feel like you're going from like micro level to micro level. So in that sort of sandbox sense, there's a lot of inspiration from those titles, but big fan of both like Metroidvanias and like actually being able to I like I'm mincing this a little bit, sorry, but like mincing my words a bit. But what I like to do is try and envision like how would you actually survive? So if you were dropped in this place, like what would you do? And we're trying to cater to all those things that a person might want to do. So looking for weaponry might be the first thing you actually choose. Otherwise, like and a few of these encounters, and trying not to ruin it, like that sort of thing won't be very much good. So yeah, you might choose to do a slightly more stealthy, if you like. Yeah, it's a much more the angle of I'm trying to use my words very carefully here because I wouldn't like to say action horror because we're much more sort of the scary spectrum is the way I look at this. But yeah, like there's a lot of input and a lot of player sort of autonomy, I should say.
Yeah, I think it would be interesting to hear kind of about your how you've built the world as well, because I know you've had lots of special equipment that you've done it with, and is it photogrammetry? Is that what it's called? Where it's
Yeah,
like
use a
take
ton of yes, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Yeah,
it's
no,
like that being so real, and then putting this horror lens over the top of it, and then basing it in kind of these folklore areas from across the UK as well. I think that kind of mishmash is really interesting. So how have you made it super realistic in that way?
yeah, so this is one of our. I nerd out because this is really techy and I love it. So so as a team we've been working together for over 5 years at Vertpaint on other people's games. So like we work for tons of different studios, lots of games that like lots of people with the audience might have played. But with what we're obsessed about is we're obsessed about like authoring our own content. So whether it's like to cut off a nose to spite a face, like there's amazing stores out there like Megascans and this, that, and the other, that we're one of the weird teams that go, no, let's make everything ourselves. So the benefit in doing that is that we're using very, very Vertpaint owned both tech and workflows to build out this environment. For example, when we say we're going to make the best looking game, the reason we're confident behind that is because we're using something. The vehicle for this game is going to be in the environment, and we've really R&D'd and through years built up how we're going to approach that, and it's very, very different from how other game developers approach building an environment. Part of the reason being we're quite a small team. We can really like make the workflows horrible and arduous, and lots of things could break in the process of making it. You don't have to pass it to 100 people in a dev studio. Do you know what I mean? So it's yeah. Yeah, loads of photogrammetry, loads of our own scan data. It's a bit of a mess. There's so much that we're doing by hand and whatnot. But it's a lot of fun. Sorry, Ash, I answered like 5 questions at once there. It's nerves.
Hey, it's great. What's the weirdest thing you've put in so far?
Oh, well, I tell you what, I didn't put it in, but the weirdest thing was going to be I was dropping my daughter off a couple of weeks ago, and I was driving down the road, and then there was this dead badger, and I sort of stopped, and because obviously we got scanning equipment and whatnot, and I went, I can't.
But
No.
I can.
And I was like, and in my head, I was doing all the maths, like I've got room in the boot, and I could. No, no, and I didn't at the end. But I did get home and think, would have been great, But I didn't know, that might have been some law I was breaking or something or other. But no, so that
I think it's probably more that like if you picked it up to like photo scan it, and you probably deprived someone else who might have picked it up to cook it.
there
Yeah.
you go, mate. There you go. So like, yeah, because I definitely wouldn't have eaten it. So, but I would have scanned it. And
Finders keepers, I say, innit? Finders keepers.
yeah. No, exactly. And I was thinking also, this is horrible, but like if it did decompose a bit, I thought, oh, I can make for a brilliant scan. There could be some really cool stuff. But no, so craziest thing we put in at the minute isn't that exciting, I guess. We in terms of the monsters and whatnot, like a lot of that work is just hand sculpting. So like our lovely monster that we've sort of reeled out and shown the public, the I should say the one that's in game, not just the concept art. That had a ton of us working on it. That's why I would say one of the more ugly things that's in the game, if you like, or that we've shown so far. And fun facts: one of the lead sculpting artists on it, it did Vagar from I might be saying the name wrong, from House of Dragons. Amazing anatomist called Luke Cachera. Lucas Cachera. Check him out if anyone's listening to this. Awesome artist. But yeah, that's probably, I'd say, the turned. Those characters are the most gruesome things we put in so far.
I'm definitely interested in like kind of you've got the two things there. Like one of it was talking about like having like a huge amount of player freedom in terms of like where to go and what to do next and everything, and then also this kind of like best looking game of the time thing. Because like if I'm thinking like off the top of my head, if like I had to pick like the best looking game that's out at the moment, I'd probably say Hellblade 2 is like probably the
Yeah.
one that's like kind of at that benchmark. And it's a great game. I really enjoyed it, but it also felt like they had to constrain a lot in terms of the gameplay because of like how realistic they were making it, so it like limited what the combat could be and where you could go. So how do you balance those two things?
Yeah, no, that's awesome question, because the one thing that we did fight against really early is proceduralisms. Like, don't get me wrong, procedural work is awesome, but I think personally, I'm a little bit burnt out at like the games where you get loads of very, very intelligent algorithms that pre-generate seeds and populate things, but then a void of any artistic love or life. And so by this is like one of the biggest challenges with the art, is to make really big sweeping areas where the player can go left, right, up, down, in that house, out that house, and have the freedom to do so, but also making sure that that's had an artist craft like a lot of time and love into like, we don't just want to go in a house. We this is a big question, sorry, I've opened up. You've got to be passionate. So lots of games I've worked on actually as well, are like, we in our company, in our team, we kind of describe a lot of housing as like warehousing. So you get like 4 walls, roof, floor, some chairs, and it's kind of like, if you actually look at it for 2 minutes, it's not indicative of somewhere you would live or has been lived in. It's like an empty hotel husk of a room sort of thing. So, and I'm not naming any project in particular, but that can happen sort of quite easily in lots of projects. So what we're doing is we're saying, right, okay, like, the minutia really matters. So who lived in this house? Even this character doesn't exist in game. Like, whose house is it? We've named all the houses in terms of the file structure, like the actual family that owns it, and that's forced us to go, right, this family. The dad was a carpenter. So what do carpenters have around their house? And like wood shavings, they have, maybe they have to fix all they're quite handy, so they do all the stuff in their own house, and maybe there's a little project they put up on the side that never got finished, and all those things are things that we want to pour into this, so that you do feel like you're trespassing in someone else's space. But the biggest issue is it does take a lot of time. So in regard to constraining gameplay, we've been quite lucky in that the gameplay caters to in exploring the environments. Whereas Hellblade is more like, this is again amazing game. It's a linear sort of experience. There's linear sections in our games, specifically when we really want to scare the player. We want to have those controls and have the director's authority to know they've got to go a certain direction. But we trap people in those spaces. So there's a lot of the gameplay. We talk about pacing a lot. So a lot of the gameplay will be, there actually isn't a threat at this moment in time, but you don't know when you're going to spring one. And so we're kind of catering to not two different play styles, but 2 different scenarios. So when we put people in a position where we really want to scare them and we really want to force them into actions, that's when it goes like much more Hellblade, much more like you have maybe 2 choices and you've got to choose wisely sort of thing. In those open world sections and those like sandbox environments, we can be a little bit more take in the scenery and take in the horrors that have happened throughout these places. I hope that answers your question in a small way, because it's one of the biggest game design considerations that we constantly discussing internally, to be honest.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting, because this was always my perception, was like with graphics, like the kind of that they're mostly reaching a, in terms of photorealism at least, like reaching a sort of plateau where if you go too much beyond that, there's obviously the resources that uses, like, impact that has got to go from somewhere else. So yeah, hearing kind of like how you manage those things is kind of interesting, and like it's not just. I mean, it's an ambitious thing. Like, we're going to make the best looking game ever, but you also still like, no, but we still want all this good gameplay, which is like obviously
the
the
gameplay is
core
always
of.
the top. Oh, so yeah, we always say that as well with the workflows we build, because one of the things that I'm really proud about in terms of the way that we are building the game is that they are new workflows, and we're trying to make sure they're catered to us making this game, not necessarily any other game. They might be terrible and unoptimized and all these things, but yeah, we want to make sure that our designers, whenever we want, we can change something, and it's not going to have the most dramatic impact. And one of the biggest time spends in developing a game is the art pass. You can build the white box and you can get all your mechanics in, and that can take a lot of time. But the actual implementation of those features, that's often the sort of the earlier work. If we get Seth, one of our designers, if he comes in and says, this house could be improved by radically changing the shape, or maybe we just, it needs to be wider or whatever, there's not enough interior space, we need to add a room. We want it so that the art can always service those without it being a massive headache. So undoubtedly going back and changing things does take extra time, but one of the things I'm really proud about is that we can actually manage that time and manage that reallocation of resources quite successfully. And again, just because we're in complete control of the tech, it's all our stuff, so we've built it to serve that purpose.
Do you feel with all of this like mixing and meddling with all the different ways of creating horror that you've come up with the perfect formula for jump scares, if you're trapping people in places and then deciding when it's going to hit them?
Interesting. It's hard because when you make it, it's like you're never scared by it. So, but you've got to like trust your gut, and you've got to say, right, obviously QA, make sure that it scares other people. But I always think that really good jump scares, because I love jump scares. But like, I know lots of people poo-poo jump. I'm a big fan. It's one of those cards that as a horror director, you just have. It's a brilliant card to have. So, obviously psychological horror, all these other things are, narrative horror, environmental horror. There's all these other things that mix in. But with a good jump scare, if it follows the format of a really good joke, like in a joke, like if you get like you lead someone down a path of a story, and then you hit them with something unexpected. Oh, I can't remember the way of describing that, but a good jump scare operates in the same way. So if it can feel offbeat, I tend to find that's the best. Where it's like event, event, event. It shouldn't then be jump scare. It should be like you change up that melody, if you like. I don't know. I don't have the vocabulary to describe this very well. I could show you, but yeah, making sure it's offbeat and making sure it's unexpected. That's always the number one thing we look for with the jump scares. Yeah, we've been quite successful. I'm really excited, and that's one thing that's hard not to just show, especially because the art's not finalized in those cases. But they're the bits I'm really proud of.
Yeah. Do you feel like you can compare the game to anything else that's out there, or do you think it is totally like its own new thing?
I think we've like, quite frankly, remixed, and I always feel like we're like, oh, stolen that and stolen that. Like, there's so many games that I love, so many experiences I've had that I love, that we've kind of gone, I love that. Let's see if we can work that into this format. And so
Which
I
is how
think
it's supposed to work as well. Like pastiche is part of the creative process. Like,
absolutely, like, if, for example, if Dark Descent didn't exist, nor would Ritual Tides, and equally so if Silent Hill didn't exist, nor would Ritual Tides. Now, that's not to say that they're both very different games, and they're not to say that they are Ritual Tides, but we have borrowed so heavily from formats that we love that I would say you can definitely compare it to other titles, but you probably have to compare it to a few titles as opposed to one. I couldn't go like it's Resident Evil or it's this.
yeah. No, that's good. That's exciting. That's nice to see here that it's like the perfect paint palette of different things.
Certainly our taste. Yeah, definitely. So a bit darker than most. Although I will say the Amnesia Dark Descent storyline was brilliant. It was super dark. So
Yeah, and just on the subject of jump scares as well, like you were saying about like it's like kind of I think it'll be interesting to see how they're done as well, because I don't know about anyone else, but for me, there's like obviously kind of you have lazy jump scares where it's just like all of a sudden there's a face and a loud sound or stuff like that. Whereas if you get that one where you don't realize you've been jump scared till like half a second later, like say like something appears in the background, there's no audio cue for it or something, just a
yeah.
face, and then it's gone, and then it just like that shiver runs down your spine, and then you're just like, oh.
So we've got boards of like screenshots, if you like, of different jump scares, both from games and film. And one of the ones that I always go back to is there is, oh, I'm gonna get all the names wrong. Was it Insidious? With the red lipstick demon.
Oh, the one behind Patrick Wilson's head.
Yeah,
The red
so
lipstick demon. He's got a red face. He's not got red lipstick.
you know what? I only call him that because the internet. I said, "What's this?" So he doesn't have a name really. So I was like, "What is it?" Because the guy behind the red door. Like, I was, "What's his name?" If you go on, I believe it's like ChatGPT and say, "What's his name?" It will come up with a red lipstick demon. I don't know why.
The red lipstick demon.
People will do
Sounds
that
like
now, and
he's
it won't come
drank
up, and
the
I look like a
soda,
right
innit?
idiot. But Darth Maul. So when
Yeah.
Darth Maul does that jump scare, like that one exact one you're talking about, the reason that was so elegant is because I think that the audience was although they were describing this really scary thing of seeing the demon, you do actually get a shot of it beforehand, like in the room with the boy and whatnot. Like when that jump scare comes in, it's so unexpected. It's so that's like the fine wine of jump scares. But I know I love what you said as well, Phil. When it's like when it's a jump scare that hits you like half a second late, like it's always been there. I think Hereditary had a moment for me where I actually was one of the few audience members that didn't spot the mum who was like hiding up in the eaves of the room, or not the eaves, corner of the room. That one made me like, oh god, like I love those. That it's super well shot, good cinematography jump scares.
Going back
it
through,
kind
going
of
back through that
reminds you of
film.
that thing like where you're walking down a corridor or something, you think you've seen something in the corner, and then you go do a double take and look back, and then obviously you look and it's like a broom or something weird, like it's just
I
cast a
do
weird
that
shape.
now.
But in that moment between when you first saw it and when you confirm what you saw, that moment of like, I don't know what it was, and
I love how our brains as well, like mine does anyway, it goes like, it never jumps something logical, it goes demon. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not broom, it's not like coat hung up, it's like, oh, demon, let's go check. You know, like, I get it. My daughters, they wake up quite a lot in the night, and I've always got to be a big brave dad and walk across and make sure they're all fine and that. But every night I have that. Like, there's one particular like door that's always open, and I'm really childish, but I don't look through the door. I just go, right, go on, your daughter's crying. You know.
yeah. Sorry, I cut you off, Ash. I didn't mean to.
No, no, it's fine. it was literally just me yapping about Hereditary, and it's one thing when there's three of us. Like I'm always like,
Oh,
because
I'm
I'm
terrible.
excited.
Sorry.
No,
Yeah,
no, it's fine.
in team meetings, because I'm just like I talk really fast as well. Sometimes I feel like I'm the only person that's talked this meeting, and I hope my team don't hate me. You know.
Well, you need to be the only person that talks in this one. We want to hear all about the game, so this is the
Oh,
great format for it. Um,
awesome, Maggie.
I would also would like to know, talking about all of the scary stuff and the jump scare side of things, what where does the Lovecraftian like cosmic horror come from? Because that's a very different brand of horror, and something that you guys have touted a lot is that Lovecraft, that cosmic, that uh unknowable, the knowledge being
Yes.
too powerful is the Lovecraft modus operandi. So how does that apply to Ritual Tides?
Yeah. Okay. I'll be careful, but I love that question. So the British setting, the island, all the cult, they are all the vehicle, if you like. But the driver is, and I won't say what it is exactly, because that's part of what we want people to try and find out, and definitely find out, and obviously playing the game. But yeah, it's very, very Lovecraftian in its roots. So one of the things that we've done that I can talk about a little bit more that's not directly, let's say, even the thing, if you want to give it sort of like a thing for now, the we've got settings within the game that are very, very they're a big nod to a lot of the Lovecraft literature that I've loved, like reading growing up and whatnot. And like one of the things that was really important to us early days was what our big we know the setting. We're doing the setting because we want this and this, and like we love the fact that it's got that sort of like pagan British lore built into it, and it's all built on top of that. But the Shadow over Innsmouth, that was one of the first Lovecraftian sort of stories that I like fell in love with, and part of that was to do with location. So we have got a port town in the game that is like, if ever you were going to see a British, because it's very British, it's not trying to be um like Innsmouth, if you like. But if ever you're going to see a British version of the Shadows of Innsmouth, that play our game. It's like it's had so much love and time and thought into everything. And if players do look around and read like signs, and like you'll notice that we're massive Lovecraft nerds. So yeah. Other than that, it's yeah. This is the beginning of an IP. That's our big goal with this. And so this is the launch, if you like, of something. That's all I'll say. But it's a very Lovecraftian something.
Okay,
Mm.
creepy.
People could probably explain it way better than that and still not give anything away. But I'm just erring on the side of caution. That's all
No,
right.
I think keeping it mysterious is definitely the bottom line of it. With you saying that it's the start of an IP, is this still a contained story though? Because I know some people will be like, "Ugh,
Yes.
it's this, that, and the other, and sequels. Like, are they paying attention to the first one?" So it's just a platform for you to say how great this one's going to be.
Yeah. No. No. Absolutely. So one of the things when we do say IP, that's just to say we've written so many stories already, and I wouldn't say written fully fleshed out, but outlined. Like, this is where we'd love that to go. This is what we'd like with this. Like, there's one of the things that's awesome about Lovecraft in particular is their pulp. So you can have the entire mythos, and you can have your Cthulhu's, and you can have your I thought, sorry, I think it was August Derleth who did the King in Yellow, but you can have all of those different entities if you like, and they're all contained stories, but they're all part of a Necronomicon. That's what we say when we say IP. I wouldn't just think of it as like episode 1, episode 2. Although Half Life did an awesome job of that, and we're very inspired by Half Life in many ways. But yeah, that's what I would get people to think about. Like, think of it as if you do fall in love with the game and become invested with the story and the lore, then that's what we mean by IP. We'd like to build on this, and we've already been building it behind the scenes, writing wise,
Yeah.
essentially.
So more like an anthology kind of stories, like they
Yes,
kind of
yes, yeah. So
in
yeah,
some
definitely
way, but
exactly.
not necessarily like one follows the other than the other.
No, we actually quite like the fact that they're going to be. Yeah. I won't say too much, but yeah.
It's the VGU. It's the VGU, like the Vertpaint Games universe.
Yeah, you go. The VGU, I love that. I love that.
Yeah. And because I was thinking just before about obviously like as well as you've talked about like movie influences and like folklore and all this stuff, and obviously Lovecraft. I was also thinking about like video games that kind of have that Lovecraftian element to them. And obviously, you mentioned King in Yellow, which kind of brought me back to like Signalis was one of my favorite games of all time recently. But I was also thinking just specifically on the subject of like going to an island and there's like lots of Lovecraftian things going on and possibly occults. Like, have you played a game? Was it 2022? I think called The Chant.
The chant, no, but I haven't. But it sounds well up my street, so I'll put it in.
I think it would be, but yeah, I think I like that this is kind of becoming more of a theme because obviously for a long time, and I'm a massive Resident Evil fan. I love all mutants and zombies and everything else.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then the kind of Silent Hill type stuff as well. But I also do love that like kind of more and more of this like Lovecraftian stuff is becoming like more of a theme as well. So it's definitely good to see a lot more of that side of things.
I just think it's such a nice, like, because yeah, with Lovecraftian, it's such a wide net you can cast. Like with Ash saying about it's that famous quote of like, I butcher it, but essentially, there's no greater fear than the fear of the unknown. It's much better written than that. But that like, I think at the core of most Lovecraftian stories is you as in the player or the character, you are very very small and almost inconsequential in the face of overwhelming odds or overwhelming presences, let's say. And that's yeah, I think I'm a massive fan of any sort of developer who goes down that lens, because it's not something that's endemically. It's hard to AAA some of those concepts. It's hard to AAA some stories when it's very introspective. It's very specifically single player and story driven. Like I think Resident Evil does a fantastic job, but they also have a fantastic more of a shooter action element as well. So there's like they've got a really big target audience, if you like. So I can see they've navigated it brilliantly. But yeah, no, I'm a big fan. I'm a really big fan of this scene, and it does tend to be one that independent game developers do explore more. And I think maybe that is because of there isn't that, financially speaking, we're not going to be selling skins for the character. Do you know what I mean? So it's like a different sort of medium in a weird way. Yeah, so I'm waffling now. I'm just going off on one.
No, it's great, honestly. Like every time you talk, like it makes me pull like different references from places. So like thinking of Dredge with the Lovecraftian islands and kind of indie developers doing it, and then Alone in the Dark and the remake that came from
Yeah.
that, which is all the Lovecraftian influences on a larger scale. I just think it's very much like time for the like we've had so many good Lovecraftian games that haven't quite stolen the spotlight, and like I just think Ritual Tides is going to be the peak of it all. You know what I mean? Like there's
We
so many
really want to. We want to
skulls.
try. Yeah.
Yeah, the
No,
mountain of bones that you've climbed up.
well, I don't know if we could say this yet, so maybe massive edit out. But only as of yesterday, we've been invited to feature at the Future Game Show,
Yay!
and which is awesome because we certainly wouldn't be able to afford to get on it. So that's going to be a real platform. We're looking at that to go right. If we were going to, that's a perfect time for us to say, to drop a little bit of the mystery, obviously maintain the narrative mystery and really want, we want players to explore the world, but show, right, here's what we're trying to do. Here's what we're working on. Here's how it looks. So like, obviously enough rope to hang ourselves there. But yeah, like we're approaching this, all the projects we've worked on as a team for the last 5 years have been AAA virtually, like very, very high budget, hundreds of millions. And we're approaching this game with that mentality, only without the budget. So we are pouring, and I've got to thank everyone in the team for just like we do pushes where I literally say to them, look, prisoners of war can't be treated like this. Just to warn you, like, do you know what I mean? No one's asking you to stay here and do all this, but there's so much passion in the team, and there's so much want to make this the game that we want to see out there. That yeah, we hope we do steal some spotlight, or we hope we get at least a sort of a glancing bit of light to say, oh, it's worth it. Look, we did it.
For sure.
Yeah, you were saying about obviously like trying to avoid spoilers or avoid giving too much away. I'm kind of wondering, particularly given the like genre and themes, like are we going to get that thing where you'll like give snippets in like trailers and stuff coming in enough for people to kind of start crafting theories about what they think's going on, and then start going, oh well, maybe this represents this.
I hope so. My we had this thing at the very beginning of the project. So this was back in 2021. We hadn't fully started any pre-production, but we actually trademarked the name because we were like, if we do that, we've got to make it, and we've got to put the money where our mouth is, sort of thing. Yeah, one of the things I said from the outset is like we went around sort of team and said, like, what would your ideal outcome of this game be? Like, we've all agreed we like it and we like the story and the themes, and we're really excited and passionate to make it. But what are the things post-launch that would really make you smile? And so, like, obviously hundreds of millions of pounds. Let's get that one out of the way. That'd be great. That'd be really, really great. We could make the second one. But no, the one I sort of have in my head is I really want to just log on to Reddit or something, and then see a forum of people trying to pick it apart. In the same way that for years I've picked apart what things mean in Silent Hill, or like understanding only through watching a YouTube video later that when I was playing Resident Evil, the umbrella logo is there, and like realizing like, oh yeah, like I know it does get explained in the game later, but at the time I was like, that's amazing. Like I would absolutely love that. That would be my absolute like yeah, I can't think of any better, to be honest. That to see people trying to pick apart and understand more about the lore and the backstory behind elements, yeah, that's like a dream of mine.
Yeah, I think that's going to be great fun to do as well. Like knowing that you're a fan of the genre. Like I think the best horror games come from horror fans because they know what you want to see. They know what you know what you enjoy about it. Like you know what is going to be a part of the narrative that gets everyone really excited. And on that note, actually, this is a great segue into the next thing I wanted to talk to you about, which is getting Daz Games on board as well. So another
Yeah,
horror fan in the mix.
yeah, that was a crazy one. So
Yeah.
we did a little skit, and bear in mind we are none of us social media people, so we were like, right. So we all basically said, who do we want? We were like, Daz. We want it with
Yeah.
Daz. And we said, right, how do we get hold of Daz? And we're like, no idea. So we looked up, he's got an agency and there's all these things, and like and we just knew we're not going to be that appealing compared to the offers this guy must get. Like, we are in the B2B space, in the business jargon, in the sort of like game developer space, people know who we are, but gamers won't. And so we did this thing where we took a chair out and like I got splashed by the ocean, and we bought all of Daz's gear. By the way, we bought much more of Daz's gear than you can see in the video. Like everyone's decked out in it, and we've got his plushie, but we never bloody used it. So got all the gear on, and then the joke, like we all sort of agreed when we got there, said let's not mention Daz. Like Daz comes up at the beginning of the video that he says like I can't wait for a AAA horror game to get my teeth stuck into. So he's very much featured, but then we're all wearing Daz stuff and no one mentions it. So we kind of found that a little bit internally funny. And yeah, he liked the video. So then, yeah, we actually have this character that is a little bit sinister, but a little bit of the comic relief. And I was like, look, Daz, I'd love for you if you could voice act in this, that would be like a dream come true. And he's up for it. So yeah, we were over the moon with that. That was a very, very very lucky one, put it that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, yeah, I'm trying to think. Oh, sorry, I had something to say. I completely forgot what it was. Sorry about that.
No, it's super cool. I just love hearing about people connecting and coming together to make cool things, and like it being from different parts of the industry as well. Like you're reaching out to different areas to pull all these things in, and it's just like a massive passion project. It's always exciting to hear about. And everything you've said so far just sounds like the perfect brew. It's just you just got to get it
Love
out
it.
there, release it.
Yeah, no, that's it. So like one of the things, this might be a little bit controversial to say, but I'm a big believer in that certainly in the AAA space, lots of developers aren't in love with the product they're making. And that's not because they're bad people, but anyway, like you could be insert times to an environment artist, you could be an audio developer, and you might be really passionate about your craft. But the one thing that I think we have as a massive advantage is the people that are working on this project are very, very passionate about this project. And to the point where like I don't have to guess because people work at random times of the night. Like you get people doing things that aren't in their job spec just to promote and try and help and grasp at little we're a small team, so everyone wears a lot of hats, and then people are constantly picking up new hats and putting them on without being asked. And that for me is like the energy in making this game, even though I've lost all my hair, is absolutely like awesome. So and we hope that gets seen in the final product, because there's, like I said, there's so much love that's going into the minutia. Financially, I hope that's a good investment. Is what I say.
Sorry, there was just background noise.
No.
I thought saw a little thing. I was like, what does that mean?
I haven't actually asked for this. My mic awful.
No.
No, good.
Oh, it all sounds fine.
Brilliant.
You're all good. Do you want me to pick up Phil, or do you want to jump in? Okay. Oh, right. Let me come back to earth with this a little bit. Right.
So Ash knows how professional we are because we invited Ash over.
Yeah.
So,
We're all on the same level, don't
yeah,
worry,
no, 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 no.
honestly.
This is perfect. Like I like
Mm,
the less corporate things are, the more relaxed I am.
yeah,
As soon as things get like, when you obviously with clients, when you go into meetings, it's really sort of like everyone knows what they're doing, and it's all
yeah.
like that's when I freak out.
When the
Yeah,
suits come on.
yeah.
Ah, right. So, I think what a great thing to kind of cap all this up with would be for you to tell us what you are most excited for a horror fan to see in your game. Like what when you think of your game coming out or the steps that we're going through this year and beyond to put Ritual Tides out there, what is it that you want horror fans to take away from this? Or just like maybe somebody who isn't a horror fan and is interested, what are you most excited for them to see and to feel?
Okay, yeah, interesting. Like I would say I'm most so when I play games like Silent Hill and Resident Evil, actually, like specifically Resident Evil Village and Silent Hill 2, one of the things that I was most excited about as a player was the strange different abominations that
Mm,
you're stumbling upon and like the way in which they're introduced to you. So I would say that for me, one of the hardest things is from a marketing lens, we want to show off all the monsters and we want to
yeah.
show off all
I
the
want to see them. Like
yeah, and like we are starting to show some stuff now, which is like equally fun and equally nerve wracking. Because I think one of the things, and this might just be like a game purist, but I want people to stumble upon these things and be like, "What on earth?" Like, and really struggle with what it is they're sort of dealing with, or like the circumstances to the thing that they're dealing with. Because a lot of these, well, I say all of these characters, they've got traumatic, horrible backstories, and that's the thing I'm most excited about. I'm most excited for people potentially picking up a few of the little breadcrumbs we're laying down, and then confronting something, and then maybe even retrospectively going like, "Oh, oh, that's dark." That's what I'm most. So I should say it's something about monsters, to be honest,
yeah.
like the different monsters and whatnot.
Oh,
Yeah, but not just the monsters, but the backstories and the kind of symbolism behind them from what you were saying there. Yeah.
It's dark, yeah. So like, and this was and ahh'd about a lot. And obviously, we do want to make money and we want to make the next game. So we are trying to think. Early days we were certainly talking about like, is this too much? Is this too much? And we've just gone. You know what? Like it, as long as it's serving the narrative, it's not just gratuity for the sake of gratuity, and
Mm.
like then it's in. And it's a surprising amount getting in because making something emotional and making something really uncomfortable is a big card that we want to play because that's part of we talk about the jump scares and whatnot. That is part of the horror. And
mm,
we want to make sure that people understand that the poor individuals that are going through this world, including the character now, that like a lot of it wasn't their fault, but nevertheless, terrible things have happened, and here's the result. So
yeah.
so yeah, I would say I guess the revelation behind the monsters, that's probably the thing I'm most excited about.
Yeah. I mean, the thing that springs to mind, like again from very recently playing Silent Hill 2 remake, and like kind of obviously kind of if you're playing it for the first time, all the monsters look cool and horrifying and stuff, and then you look into like the meaning behind something like the abstract daddy, for example.
Yeah,
Like,
that's so dark.
yeah.
That's it. Like that. I mean, like the purpose behind that in a story is very, very relevant. Like, it's not just like, oh, we're going to do something abominable, and I won't even mention it, but like, we're just going to do something abominable and we put it in front of people to shock them. Like, I think the thing I really respect about the Silent Hill 2 creators is the psychological research that they did going into the concept and pre-production phases. So when you
Mm.
see things, and even now, like I know that lots of the theories have been confirmed, but like Pyramid Head wrestling with the nurse, like those are psychological factors of the player's character, and it really serves the narrative. It's like you can ask the question like, is this just gratuitous or like is it just shock factor? Well, no, it's really not. It really serves, and so that's what we're looking to do, and dare I say, turn the dial up a little bit, like
Oh,
oh, Big Daddy's pretty.
yeah, Silent Hill. Like
Yeah,
these
no, I
are
was going
all
to say
saying.
I don't. Part of me is hesitant because I will say they did not hold back, you know. But certainly we're doing some uncomfortable stuff, but with purpose is what I say. That's just the disclaimer for my mum. Mum, when you see this, like there's reasons.
The reasons are always there. Reasons. Well, James, you've spoke to me before, and I'm sure elsewhere as well about this project being like something that you've worked on for years as well. I think it'd be great to hear about like your passion for it and kind of that this is what this means to you as well to be able to make it.
Oh, like the world. I'll actually mention my poor long suffering wife on this. So like I have two shifts a day. I do my do a school run, then 9 o'clock till 4 I work, and then I'm off at 4 till half 8, and I'm with my girls. And everyone in the company knows that like pretty much unreachable in that period. My poor wife though, from like half 8, it's like, how are you? Yeah, how's your day? Yeah, anyway, bye. And then it's off to work and like, and so I would say, and I love me and my wife, like we just play board games and chill and just talk and drink and do just just chat. Do you know what I mean? That is like my most like apart from the time with my daughter is the most treasured time, and that is for me completely sacrificed in through we're not talking months, years, essentially to do this. So for me, it absolutely has to be done. I can't go through life and not release this and not have people at least even if people hate it, it's to say like, look, this story had so much love in it and so much thought in tying together lore and making sure that it's cohesive and also esoteric and silly and crazy and like getting it out there is my entire being. That's what everything in my life revolves around getting this out there. And to the point actually where we said early days again, we said, look, like we like this, it's cool, but we're not authors. Like we haven't put out books. So how do we know? If you ask me, can you make an incredibly realistic house? Well, yes, I can. And I could tell you a number of reasons and give you confidence as to why I could do that. In terms of writing a book, I won 2 poetry competitions when I was 8. That's about as far as I could go. So no, I could not give you any confidence in that. So what we did is, and I annoyingly, I don't want to mention his name in case he gets trouble. I can tell you behind the scenes, but I made sure I've reached out to one of my favorite horror authors, amazing guy. I say he's a guy. He said, "Yeah, cool. I'm happy to sign an NDA. Let's talk." And gave him the script, and we went over it, had coffee and whatnot, and he loved it. So then I was like, "We're going to throw all our money into it."
Yeah, let's go. Yeah,
He could have screwed me because he could have just been polite,
yeah.
So, but no, like, yeah. And the only reason I can't mention his name is because he's got other contracts, and like, there are things that he, not worth sort of poking the hornet's nest if you like, or but yeah, because we originally said, look, if you love it, let's get you involved, and he couldn't unfortunately. But
So
but
it's
I
Stephen
thought
King. So it's Stephen King. Okay, that's great.
no, it's not. But as soon as we go off the call, I'll say it. As soon as it's not recorded, I'm like, let's go. So no, we
Uh,
got a lot of confidence in it.
Yeah.
yeah, no, but I think you can tell. Like, I mean, even if something's got flaws, if it's something that's a product of passion and it's a story that you've genuinely wanted to tell and it's something that's been brewing up there and like whatever else versus something that's maybe kind of more technically perfect, but it's all like cold and it's just like chilling out because that's what's on trend and that's what
Yeah,
you can tell the difference between those things. And I think those kind of rough around the edges things that have character and have passion put into them, like, are always more compelling. I think certainly for me, like,
I love that.
it's like, oh yeah, someone knows that X, Y, and Z thing is like the thing that everyone's talking about now, but there's no heart in it. Like that's like one of the defining things. I mean, not to say that you can't like have heart and like still be like rubbish at doing something, but
No.
it's
I
more likely
100%
to.
agree. Yeah, I think about like the favorite horror films and favorite horror. Like, 'cause I watch a lot of like behind the scenes and documentaries and just obsessed with all that sort of thing. And like, I'd say the number one indicator to a successful product and whether that's like well received or not, or whether it's like I guess I should qualify successful then, but like to a product that resonates properly with an audience, and even if that audience is a group of people and it's a small audience. Um, I'd say the number one factor is there's got to be passion in the people that are creating it. Like otherwise, like if we didn't have passion, if we were doing this as it was just a look, gang, we're getting paid for this. We, what's on the task list today? Okay, got to get through that. Like it, but the game would probably have been finished. I'll tell you that much. But it would not have those things that we now look at the game and say that's our favorite thing about it. That's what we love. Um, and the things that like I'll turn on my phone at like 1 a.m. when I'm lying down, and I'll just look at like the dev images from the day, and I'm like zooming in, zooming out, and zooming in. That obsession only comes through loving something, and the team are like, I just they're awesome. They're so behind this to the point of insanity. Like if we actually were to pay them the hours people work, we'd be bankrupt completely. And we opened our studio saying like no crunch here. We're a responsible studio. That went out the absolute window when people got passionate. so yeah, no, I totally agree. To waffle on, I totally agree.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, that's obviously one of the things, like, certainly from our point of view, we always celebrate, not crunch, I will say,
Yeah.
but like that idea of like passion and like pouring into like love for games and love for horror and love for stories, because like obviously that's probably, if you look at things in the industry now and everything, like this is really successful game that like loads of people love, but it didn't do X amount for shareholders, so we're going to sack a bunch of people or whatever. Versus,
Yeah.
I on my own made this indie game, which like took me
Resonates.
months and cost like on a shoestring budget, but it's like a work of passion project or whatever. That's the sort of stuff that like gets us excited.
And the vision, it's all I often find like the more managing executives or whatnot, like that single dev example, that vision was probably very tight. It was like, I want to achieve this. Whereas
Mm.
if you've got like your massive developers and they've got a decision-making process that has to accommodate 20 people before it gets actioned, the delineation from the original idea can be massive, and the dilution of that idea can also be completely, it can make it the opposite in ways. So yeah, I do think that, like, and don't get me wrong, like our team, they have a lot of creative input on all different aspects, but we all come together and we all make a unified decision, say this is why this is staying in or whatnot. So yeah, no, I'm a massive believer in that. And also, just to sort of add to that point, Phil, is like the biggest fear for me would be someone handing me like 400 million to make a game, because if
Oh
with that,
no, so much money.
oh yeah. If it was 400 million salary, no problem. What do you want? Like, but
Well, I'll take 300 million as a salary, and then
yeah,
we'll make the game
absolutely.
for.
That much more confident. But like the reason I say that is because from a business perspective, 400 million says to me you have to make 400 million before you make profit. That's the obvious maths. And so what does your target audience look like if you've got to make 400 million to not be a flop? Do you know what I mean? You've got to be like as wide, and imagine making a horror with that. Like I mean, you've got to cater to everyone. And by catering to everyone, you really are catering to no one in a heavy hitting sense. So I think you have to throw emotion out the door, like narrative out the door. There's so many things that can't be serviced and can't be dirty and unclean and like confusing and all these things that make horror really, really authentic and appealing. Like, yeah, how do you even approach that? Do you know what I mean? Like your market share is like, yeah. So I do actually feel sorry for developers that are given so much money that they've got to please everyone. We don't have to do that. So we can cut off a big old slice of the industry and say, look, like you won't like this. That's absolutely fine. Like, please still buy it and check it out. But
Oh, I love that. That's not for you. It's not for you. Just stay away.
yeah, I mean, absolutely buy it, but no, it's not for you. You probably won't like it. Yeah, if you're a Farmville fan, actually, no, saying that, I know some Farmville people who like this. So,
Hey, I'm sure there's farms on this rustic like
oh yeah,
folklore
there's a ton of
island.
farms. So yeah. Very
Farmville
Orwellian.
sequel. Let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah, uh, everything went a bit off the rails from the first
Sorry,
Farmville.
no, that's me. I'm really bad. I could be a good politician because you could ask me one question. That's a great question, Phil. Anyway,
Yeah, no, I wasn't saying that the answer went off the rails. I was just like saying the Farmville analogy, like the
Yeah,
farm
no,
went off the rails.
yeah.
And,
I
yeah,
imagine Farmville isn't covered too much in this podcast, is my understanding.
probably not. No, I
No.
don't think
You'd
we've
be
referenced it that
surprised
much.
about the history.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think we'd be a very good podcast if we were like, well, you talk too much stuff.
Yeah, fair.
So kind of coming back to like the game and like where things are, usually kind of as we reach the end and start to wrap up, like one of the things like we're asking people what they want people to do to support the game, and obviously things like wish lists and that. But I was looking, you don't actually have am I right in thinking you don't have a Steam page yet, or am I just really
No,
bad at
yeah. So
searching Steam?
we actually debated. The original plan was we thought, right, once we show off the visuals and we show off a little bit of the mechanics and what we're building, let's launch our Steam page, because there's like, you read so much about strategy that you kind of have no strategy, and we were very much in that sort of position at one point, because we thought, right, let's go as early as possible. Let's not go as early as possible. Let's make sure we've got real impact, and we kind of settled on let's launch the Steam page alongside something that we would be excited to wishlist, or something that we would be excited to play. And so I like to put myself in the lens of the gamer. Like, I want to wishlist something where I know exactly, not exactly how the game plays, but like, well, actually, yeah, sorry, exactly how the game, what you're going to be doing in that game. And I feel that we obviously haven't communicated that yet because we're developing it. So the idea is, and I'll say it now, this big platform that we've been given in June, we'd like to use that and it be a big explosive. Hey, everyone, if you like this, if you like how this looks and plays, come wishlist us. And that's still, several months out from release and whatnot. Whether that's a good move or not, we'll find out. But yeah, I just thought there needs to be a bit more like meat on the bone from the mechanical, literally picking up the controller element, for me to be really happy and say like, right, okay, everyone now can go and grab this. I hope that makes some sense. That's probably just a really bad business move, but that's the way we've gone down.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's also comfort for me to be like, yeah, okay, I'm not just bad at searching Steam.
No, absolutely, no. So we got our like our Discord's the big thing that we're sort of pushed, if you like. We've got our website and all this, that, and the other. But yeah, if anyone wanted to support the game, the number one thing we'd love is to drop into our Discord or like become a follower on one of our platforms, because that's where we're use Instagram and TikTok. I think we've just started. And we're woefully awful at all of them at the minute. So just join to support us. But no, the Discord's the biggest one, because that's where we can actually have dialogue. We can actually answer questions. Whereas when you've got an absolute wall of comments, sometimes it's like, do you answer all the comments or do you not? Or so yeah, the Discord. If anyone wants to get involved and support us, just be there and ask questions. And you are completely within your right to say this all looks shit. You can say whatever you want in there. It's a really nice place, and no one's gonna get kicked unless you're horrible, obviously.
That's the
So,
tagline for this podcast now. This looks shit.
yeah. Oh my god, this is awful. Yeah. So yeah, Discord. If people want to help, I should plug it. I'll find out. Ritual Tide. No, www.discord.gg/ritual tides. There you go.
There will be a link for people
Amazing.
down
Thank
in
you.
the description to check
Thank
out,
you.
rather than trying to type it from memory as you
Yeah.
dictate.
And also typing it after hearing me spit it out a million miles an hour.
Yeah, and everything like kind of like I think the IGN coverage that came out was saying about it being released for PC. But you mentioned earlier you were also working towards console releases?
So this is so one of the things we didn't expect. We knew that this would be a cool concept because, like, like we're fans of it, and we know there's a big Lovecraftian fan base out there, and there's a big horror fan base out there. So I also do think there's not too many single player experiences that are coming out with a sort of AAA sealable quality, if you like. And so we thought this would be popular, but nowhere near as popular as it's been. IGN putting it like #1 spot on their website and whatnot really like went mad. It was really mad. We had a million comments that are saying like Xbox, PlayStation, and so we're just being that like cheeky, very ambitious studio. We're just trying to look into like, right, we would also love that. To be fully honest, we're developing it for controller. That's the way that we would like people to engage with this game. Now, with our mouse and keyboard and whatnot, but all the features, like we deliberately want there to be how you say it, acceleration and deceleration to like your trigger. Like, I mentioned in the previous thing, like grabbing, like we want you to hold, we want it to vibrate at certain times. Like, so it's very alluring for us, the idea of dropping it on both, cross-platform. So we're looking at it. It costs a lot to just to make sure that we have the resources to do so. But yeah, I really would like it to come out. We'd love that to be a future announcement, and we are talking to some people who might be interested in putting some money into it. So we'll see.
Yeah. Well, there you go. If we get the announcements of the future Xbox and PlayStation, you heard it here first.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah, this is exclusive.
No, that's cool. And I think just to mention as well, one of the other things that we've started adding into the podcast is questions from the public. But
Awesome.
we did, I think it was relatively short notice, so I don't know that we've actually got any at the moment. But
No,
I
that's right.
imagine that's something that if people have more questions, again, go back to the Discord and the
Oh,
chance
please
to.
do. Yeah, no, that ask a dev section is really useful. And we've also got a one of the community actually, like I think paid for like a question bot service thing in our server. So it's been really useful as we've been dropping in questions that we're genuinely sort of QA interested in, and yeah, everyone's giving back like amazing responses and whatnot. So if you have any questions, please do just drop in.
Yeah. So what are the hardest types of questions to answer then at the moment when people ask you
Yeah,
everything, presumably?
yeah. No, to be honest, the hardest ones I find are really strictly the narrative ones. Like that's something where, and that's partly probably me being too protective over like not stepping my foot in something. I'd probably say way more than I'm saying now. Even I think they're the hardest. Otherwise, it's always what did you do at Rockstar? That's another hard one I get quite a lot. So but no, in terms of the game, yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm trying to think of the other ones. Like, obviously, in terms of like showing off everything, like Ash and I were talking a while ago, where like I was saying I want to show off all of this, and all the stuff. And we were just debating, like, actually, like with horror though, is it going to be impactful if everyone sees everything? So that is a tightrope that every day I'm wrestling with. Like every day I'm changing my mind on what we're going to show and when we're going to show it. So those questions of like when are we going to see X? That's always like a hard one for me, because tomorrow's answer will be different from today's, depending on, how nervous I am and how many followers we think we need to grab, or like all that stuff.
How many dead badgers you've seen? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That stuff's the easy stuff.
we do have 2 questions from the tweet, so I will just
Oh, cool.
drop those to you. One's from Chanel. It says,
Oh,
"What are you
brilliant.
most looking forward to showing your community?"
Say it again, sorry.
What are you most looking forward to showing your community?
Oh, yeah, because recently we did that drop and I was super excited about that. So personally, what I'm most looking forward to showing is just, like I said, like raw, unfiltered gameplay. And specifically, this doesn't sound very exciting, but this is something that excites me to no end. Like, I was a big fan of a game, DayZ, where like the part of that game, one of the sort of mechanics, so one of the design elements is you've just got to loot and you've got to find things, you've got to try and survive. I'm looking forward to showing off that. That's something I'm really looking forward to, because like just this, yeah, that taking in everything that we've built in terms of the atmosphere and the environment, and then also showing like, look, when you're playing this game, you would be well served to do these things. Try and grab this, and yeah. So that otherwise, there's a few things I can't really mention. I've just popped in my head and I stopped myself from saying.
For
yeah,
reasons.
raw, uncut gameplay. If I had to just answer it really simply.
And then the other question is from Thaddeus Prime, who says, "What kind of combat can we expect in the game, and what was the inspiration for it?" Which I know we touched on earlier, but if there's anything else that you want to add that fits in.
I just like that. I recognize Thaddeus is in our Discord. Thank you, Thaddeus. So I was just like, I know that name. So the question, sorry, was what kind of combat is going to be in the game? Is that right?
Yeah, what kind of combat can we expect in the game, and what's the inspiration for it? So maybe that latter part of that question is something we haven't heard from you. What's inspired the combat?
Yeah, awesome questions. Because one of the things actually that was a developmental change based on playtesting. So we always had this idea of like, we don't want it to be a shooter, but what does that mean? Like, what do we mean we don't want it to be a shooter? And what we really meant is you can't kill Cthulhu with a gun. That's basically to boil it down. You know what I mean? And that's partly what makes Cthulhu so daunting and so
Says who? Cock
yeah,
shotgun.
exactly. You haven't seen the gun, but the realization, certainly for playtesters, was realizing like you can actually do both. You just have to pick and choose your moments, and you can pick and choose what can be killed by a gun. There's another thing, and so the combat. Imagine again, I'll go back to sort of the DayZ analogy. Imagine you're not awash with ammunition, so the combat has to be a problem-solving mechanic. And it has to be something that you have an option to use, but you can't rely on it throughout the game, essentially. So that's the way I describe it. Does that make any sense? Like to have a real, what we call like a survival, a sandbox context experience, you have to give the player options to do different things. And so if we were always just saying like, you can solve all these problems with this gun, then that will become more of a shooter. And we don't really want that. We want that to be a really cool feature of the game, a part of the game, but a logic that can't, it's not a one shot key. You know what I mean? There are other locks in the game that you have to get around.
Yeah, so we're talking about like the classic survival horror mechanic where you've got ammo, but you might not, if you use it now, you might not have enough when you need it later. That sort of thing.
Yeah, because I think, to be honest, the thing I love about that is that feels more authentic to real life. It feels like if you were dropped on this island and you were like, oh god, like, and you happen to find a gun, like there's nothing to say you're going to get another pack of bullets in the next house. Now you might, and we want people. One of the things we do want to incentivize is like looting. We want people to think, where would these people put these things? We don't want it to feel like there is a table, there is a box of ammunition. Do you know what I mean? We want it to be more like, where would a family hide ammunition, for God's sake? Do you know what I mean? So that's kind of the vibe we're going for.
Rooting through the sock drawers sounds good.
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm like, that's where I keep my ammunition as a gun owner.
Nice. It's the opposite of like in Zelda. There's like just chests everywhere, very conveniently placed. I love Zelda.
Everything in the sock drawer. Everything in the sock drawer.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm just like, I was about to say something about like trying to find like gun lockers and like find the keys for them, and then I'm just thinking about like shotgun shells rolled up in socks. Then
yes,
right. It's not something we've done, but it's the kind of vibe we're going for. I like it. I thought we might have to have like Phil's locker.
Yeah.
You know, and anyone who's watched the podcast knows like shotgun shells in there.
Oh, well, I think it's one of those things like with ritual tides, as we said before, like we've danced around a lot of stuff, and it's still kind of a lot of it's shrouded in mystery, and still like a lot of
Very
it's
much,
waiting
yeah,
to be
yeah.
seen, which is good because I always tend to fall on the side of like um like with monster movies, for example, it's better if you don't see Godzilla till like the final scene or whatever. You just hear his clumping and see like a bit of scales or whatever. So I think not knowing everything out the gate is definitely going to work in its favor. Um, but before we kind of wrap things up, is there anything kind of else that you just kind of absolutely dying to get out to talk about that we haven't touched on yet?
I know. I'm trying to think. In terms of stuff we're dying to get out, I mean, the big one is that we're working towards opening our Steam and really sort of showing off the meat and potatoes of the gameplay in June. So
Mm.
that's the big thing, and like and that's like yesterday sort of new. We originally were going to go quite quiet for a little while, but we are given the opportunity. And we thought, oh, gotta do it. So yeah, that's the big one. I guess sort of my anxiety as a game developer is I'm no. We originally said obviously we are going to make the most beautiful game ever made, and we've at least shown that like it's going in that direction. That's the one thing I'm quite happy about. But the anxiety I have is now showing that like this is something that we're really excited to show gameplay for. And when you see that gameplay, it hits that bar, and you really can see the two are marrying in because we are approaching this very much. And there's articles been written about. It's funny enough, the two stream approach of having like a game build and then your art build. And your art build tends to be very R&D focused, especially what we're doing because it's new workflows. And it's been like we think this will work, but like, is it going to work? And now we're merging the two, and now it's getting like I almost want to share every screenshot I take because I'm just like, this is it's working, and like Graham, look, do you know what I mean? So no, I would just say stay tuned and please join our Discord if you do want to see some behind the scenes. We're also happy to you know, for people who are really not worried about slightly more spoilers, and we won't ruin the big heavy hitting narrative things, but we'd screen share with them. As long as you promise us you're not OBSing this, like we're happy to like show people this stuff because we're excited about it. We're nerding out about it. So yeah, just join our Discord. That's the main thing I want to sort of like advertise.
Yeah, absolutely. And anything else you want to add, Ash? Questions?
No, I am just really gassed for Ritual Tides. I think it sounds really cool. I think it takes inspiration from all the stuff that's really cool. I love British horror. I think we're having a little like British renaissance as well at the moment with is it Atomfall, the other game that's coming out that's like
Mm.
very
Yes, yeah.
British Fallout. Like I think the UK is so ripe for plucking old school concepts from like and deep laid like folklore and history. There's
It's
just so
built
much.
upon civilization after civilization. That's what it's like.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I've got to stop because I'm going off into more things. But like I might have mentioned the island was called Stanley Isle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like there's very specific reasons to why that is, and you can see the architecture that's been there for decades, centuries, and that's now like been repurposed. It's secondary to this and that, and like that's something that like Britain has. Britain is built on top of Roman, on top of like pagan Roman, all the other stuff. Do you know what I mean? And so yeah, no, I'm really excited about that. And in that, there's layers of that like horror that we're trying to sort of like have the player peel back in. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, I'm excited. So excited to show people and yeah, I
Yeah.
would say as well, have people guess like what
Yeah.
is the root of this. Make theories. That's really exciting to me.
Oh, it's just wonderful. I just think, yeah, the UK is just absolutely, it's just banging for this sort of concept. And then like even the twee stories we have are dark in some way. It's like very much the Isle of Grimm's fairy tales. I know that is obviously a Germanic text, but
Yeah,
it feels
no.
like
I'm
that.
totally with you.
It feels
Totally
like
with you. I
that.
love that.
Yeah. So I really look forward to seeing your take on it and how excited you are for it. Yeah, I don't have any questions for it. I'm just looks good.
Yeah, I
Thumbs
appreciate
up.
it. So far, so good.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
Well, again, I mean, it's been an absolute pleasure to
Cheers,
talk to
Phil.
you and talk about all this. So thank you very much for that. And to everyone who's watching, obviously, if you want to know more about Ritual Tides, um, follow the Discord. There will be a link in the description of this podcast episode. And anyone who's an aspiring video essayist who wants to dive into fan theories, then that's probably your place to start.
Oh
Um,
yeah. Please join because we're going to start dropping it. We've dropped a few little tidbits of lore. We're going to amp that up sort of as the weeks and days and weeks go by. So yeah, drop in.
yeah. And as ever, we will be back with more episodes of the podcast in the near future, talking to more developers about more great horror games. So make sure you subscribe and following to check all that out. And we'll see you next time.
Thanks so much, guys.
Bye.
This has been Talking Terror, the official podcast of the Horror Game Awards. Thank you very much for listening. Check out the links in the description for more info on where to follow our guests in order to support them and keep up to date with their work. The Horror Game Awards will be airing live on YouTube. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel to avoid missing out on what promises to be a very exciting night of awards and game reveals, as well as future episodes of this podcast and other content. Thanks again for joining us, and we hope to see you next time.